Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hidden Motives crime series. Today, we're looking at another deeply saddening case. In the quiet suburbs of Brisbane, Australia, on a seemingly ordinary morning in February 2020, a family's routine school run turned into an unimaginable inferno. Hannah Clark, a devoted mother and high-level CrossFit athlete, loaded her 3 young children into the car. But lurking in the shadows was a man consumed by control, a husband who would stop at nothing to possess what he believed was his. This is the story of Hannah Clark, a tale of hidden terror, systemic blind spots, and a legacy that demands we never look away. Hannah Ashley Clark was born on September 8, 1988, at the Royal Women's Hospital in Brisbane. She was the only daughter of Sue and Lloyd Clark, and right from the start she was full of energy. Fun, bubbly, friendly, and always ready to work hard. As a kid, she got into trampolining and loved it. She trained seriously, became a state champion for Queensland, went to international comps, won medals, and represented Australia. That drive and discipline stuck with her. Being athletic wasn't just something she did, it was who she was. It gave her confidence and kept her going. She grew up in the Brisbane suburbs, the kind of person who made friends easily and lit up whatever room she walked into. In her late teens, she moved beyond trampolining into other fitness stuff. Then, in 2008, when she was 19, she met Rowan Baxter. He was born in New Zealand in 1977, so 11 years older. He'd played rugby league, tried out for the New Zealand Warriors in 2005, but injuries and other things brought him to Brisbane. He became a fitness coach, fit, no drinking or drugs, seemed disciplined and focused, which matched what Hannah cared about. They hit it off fast, both into training hard and pushing limits. They'd work out together, talk about building a life around fitness. In 2012, they got married in a nice ceremony in Kingscliff, New South Wales. Their first kid, Aliyah Ann, came in 2013, then Liana Grace in 2015, and Trey Rowan Charles in 2016. Hannah threw herself into being a mom the same way she did everything else, full effort, loving those 3 kids, who were 6, 4, and 3 when things ended. She was also competing at a high level in CrossFit, doing really well and motivating other people. They opened a gym together called Integrate Fitness in Kapalaba. Hannah ran kids' CrossFit classes there and built a real community around it, the way she'd grown up. From the outside, it looked perfect. Active family, successful business, nice home, happy kids. But things weren't okay underneath. Rowan's controlling side didn't show up all at once. It built slowly. At first, it was little comments. Then it turned into rules he enforced. He'd decide what she could wear, banning shorts or anything pink because he said it drew the wrong kind of attention. He put GPS trackers on her car to follow where she went. Cameras were everywhere in the house. He'd get into her phone, read messages and calls, then use it to cut her off from friends and family, questioning everything, making her pull away. It went into their sex life too. He'd push for it every night, using guilt, threats to hurt himself, or emotional pressure to get what he wanted. Later accounts showed it was more than that. Emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, financial control. He held the money, made the decisions, kept her tied down. Hannah told people he never hit me in the usual way, but there were marks from attacks, times he strangled her without killing her, and constant mental strain that left deep damage. She used to be so sure of herself, independent, full of life. But bit by bit, that got worn down. Her world got smaller. Her spark faded under the pressure of living like that every day. The control that had been building for years really ramped up in the second half of 2019. Hannah was getting stronger, more determined to get her independence back, and that clashed hard with how obsessed Rowan was becoming with keeping her under his thumb. By November, things hit a breaking point. Hannah was doing great in CrossFit, had good support from friends and family, and finally decided she couldn't keep living like that. One key moment was at a CrossFit comp where she beat him and refused to pull out when he told her to. That set him off, showed how little control he actually had, and gave her the push to separate. In December 2019, she left, packed up, and moved in with her parents, Sue and Lloyd, at their place in Camp Hill, Brisbane. Everyone knows the time right after leaving is the most dangerous for people in abusive relationships. the risk of serious violence or worse goes way up because the abuser panics about losing power. The holidays, which should have been about family and fun, turned ugly fast. On Boxing Day, December 26, just weeks after she left, Rowan kidnapped their 4-year-old daughter, Liana. He took her interstate date for 4 days as payback to hurt Hannah and show he wasn't letting go of the kids. Hannah was beside herself, reported it straight away to Queensland police, and they issued a domestic violence order against him to limit contact and protect her and the kids. But the order didn't stop him. It seemed to make him more determined to push boundaries. Into January 2020, things kept getting worse. Their arguments were heated, especially over intimate photos he'd taken of her without consent and was using against her. In one fight, he grabbed her wrist hard, twisted it, left bruises and welts, clear physical stuff that had been there under the surface before. Hannah kept reporting these things to police and her support people, but the response often downplayed it as just a messy separation instead of seeing the full pattern of control and danger. You could see he was planning something in the days before. On February 17, 2 days earlier, CCTV at a Bunnings in Brisbane caught him buying a jerry can, cable ties, and surface cleaner. Ordinary stuff on its own, but together it looked like he was getting ready for what came next. Then, on the morning of February 19, 2020, around 8:30 a.m., Hannah was doing the usual school drop-off from her parents' house on Raven Street in Camp Hill. Rowan was waiting nearby. As she got Aaliyah, 6, Liana, 4, and Trey into her Kia Sportage and started driving, he jumped in the passenger side, forced her to keep going a bit down the street. He had the jerry can full of petrol, poured it over the inside of the car and over Hannah and the kids, so there was no way out. When the car stopped, he lit it. The whole thing went up in flames fast. People nearby heard the screams, saw the smoke, and ran over. They managed to pull Hannah out. She was badly burned, but still alive. In terrible pain, she told first responders, "He poured petrol on me." The kids, Aaliyah, Liana, and Trey, didn't make it out. They died in the car. Rowan blocked people trying to put out the fire, then grabbed a knife from the vehicle, stabbed himself, and died from that and the burns. Queensland police got there fast, within minutes of the first 911 calls from neighbors and people driving by who saw the car suddenly burst into flames. Smoke was everywhere, thick and choking, sirens screaming through the quiet street. Officers taped off the whole area, turning Raven Street into a full crime scene. Some bystanders had tried to help right away, grabbing hoses and extinguishers to fight the fire. But they described the horror. Screams coming from inside, Baxter actively stopping people from getting close, then him stabbing himself as it all burned. Senior Constable Stephanie Scaines was one of the first officers there. While paramedics from Queensland Ambulance were doing everything they could to keep Hannah alive, she had burns over 97% of her body. She still managed to speak clearly. In terrible pain, knowing she probably wouldn't make it, she told Scaines what happened. "He's poured petrol all over me," she said, words caught on the officer's body cam. She explained the years of control, the stalking, the threats. It wasn't just this one morning. It was the end of something that had been building a long time. She died a few hours later at Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital. Detective Sergeant Derek Harris from the Homicide Investigation Unit took charge of the case. His team moved quickly, secured the scene, examined the burned-out Kia Sportage, collected petrol samples, pieces of the jerry can, the knife Baxter used on himself. They talked to everyone. Hannah's parents, Sue and Lloyd, who shared how bad things had gotten after she left and how many threats Baxter had made. Friends and people from the gym backed it up, describing how controlling he was, always watching her there too. Digging into Baxter's background showed no prior criminal record, which is part of why so much slipped under the radar for so long. But when they looked at digital stuff, texts, phone records, computer searches, a clear picture came together. Emotional manipulation, the January wrist-twisting assault, forced sex, controlling the money. Hannah had reached out for help more than once. After he took Liana on Boxing Day, she reported it. She gave police over 200 pages of text messages through a domestic violence officer. Messages about him strangling her, non-fatally. But that's a huge red flag for future homicide risk. stalking her, hacking her phone. Later claims from whistleblowers in 2025 said a lot of this wasn't properly logged in the Q-Prime system, so the full danger never got flagged properly across different units or agencies. The team pulled the Bunnings footage showing him buying the jerry can, cable ties, and cleaner just 2 days before. Phone and computer records showed his desperation after the separation, looking up custody stuff, sending messages with threats to people he knew. The coroner's report, put together under Harris, made it clear this wasn't a snap decision or a breakdown in the moment. It was planned, driven by rage over losing control. Baxter showed 29 out of 39 known lethality risk factors. Things like previous suicide threats, taking a child, constant monitoring, that should have set off alarm bells for stronger action. But with no criminal history, a lot of people treated it as just a bad breakup, instead of the serious, escalating danger it was. The investigation was detailed and careful, but it also laid bare some big gaps in how the system handles these cases. Failures that let things get this far. Those findings fed into the coronial inquest and kept coming up in discussions for years after. Forensic teams from Queensland Forensic and Scientific Services, along with police, went over the scene and the burned Kia Sportage carefully. The car was a charred wreck, everything inside melted or destroyed. They took samples from the seats, dashboard, floor, and other areas, tested them with chemical analysis like gas chromatography, and confirmed petrol had been poured throughout the cabin as an accelerant. It wasn't an accident. The way the residue was spread showed it had been deliberately doused, especially around where Hannah and the kids were sitting. Autopsies at the John Tonge Center confirmed the causes of death from public coronial findings. The 3 children, Aaliyah, Liana, and Trey, died from the fire's effects. Smoke inhalation, toxic fumes from burning petrol and car materials, plus severe burns. The fire spread so fast they had no real chance to get out. It happened quickly. Hannah had extensive burns over most of her body, reported as 97% full thickness in evidence, leading to multi-organ failure. She died later that day in hospital despite treatment. No drugs or alcohol were in her system, backing up that her final statements were clear. For Rowan Baxter, the autopsy showed he died from a self-inflicted stab wound to the chest that hit vital organs, combined with heavy burns, around 80% of his body. The knife matched what was found at the scene with his prints and blood. Injuries were consistent with suicide, not defense. He collapsed close by after blocking rescuers. The jerrycan pieces recovered lined up with the one he bought at Bunnings 2 days earlier. Receipt and CCTV tied it directly. Cable ties in the debris suggested he might have planned to restrain someone, though they weren't used. No vehicle faults or anything accidental turned up. All the evidence together, witness accounts, Hannah's words before she died, digital records purchases, showed this was planned and deliberate, not a sudden outburst. It backed up the bigger picture of premeditated rage from losing control. The coronial inquest later highlighted Baxter displayed 29 out of 39 known lethality risk factors in domestic violence cases. Things like prior threats, child abduction, strangulation, obsessive monitoring, and escalation after separation. Warning signs that pointed to extreme danger. The evidence from forensics and the investigation built a clear picture of premeditated violence. But at the same time, major cracks started showing in the systems that were supposed to protect Hannah and her kids. During the coronial inquest, experts pointed out that Rowan Baxter showed 29 out of 39 known lethality risk factors for domestic homicide, things backed by years of research on intimate partner violence. These included using suicide threats to manipulate, abducting a child to control the situation, constant stalking, both in person and digitally, GPS tracking, phone hacking, forcing sex, controlling money, and dropping hints of violence in messages. When so many of these stack up, it's a massive red flag that homicide isn't just a risk, it's highly likely. Agencies like police, courts, and support services should have seen this and acted urgently to keep Hannah and the children safe. But a lot of it got brushed off, downplayed, or ignored. Look at specific things that should have ramped up the response but didn't. The Boxing Day 2019 kidnapping of Liana Baxter, taking her interstate for 4 days, was reported right away by Hannah, who was terrified. Police called it a custody dispute instead of seeing it for what it was, a serious breach of the domestic violence order and a classic sign of escalating danger. They treated it like a normal parental argument rather than something that screamed high risk. This wasn't a one-off. It was part of a pattern where controlling, coercive behavior got labeled as non-criminal, letting Baxter keep going without real consequences. Years later, in November 2025, whistleblowers from Queensland Police and the coronial system spoke out about serious systemic issues. They said important details from Hannah's reports: non-lethal strangulations, which raise homicide risks 7 times over, ongoing stalking, phone hacking, weren't properly logged in the Q-Prime database for tracking domestic violence risks. Hannah had shared over 200 pages of text messages with a specialist officer detailing this, but a lot never got recorded or followed up. Suspected grooming behaviors toward the children were also ignored, never passed to child protection. The biggest red flag was the conflict of interest. The lead detective on the post-murder homicide investigation was reportedly the same officer who'd earlier dismissed Hannah's reports, like the kidnapping, as minor. That made people question if the investigation was fair or just shielding old mistakes. Even after Hannah's death, police questioned the truth and motive of her claims, almost putting her on trial. While Baxter's public image as a nice, fit guy with no record stayed untouched. Friends saw him as charismatic, but agencies focused on that and missed the private danger. These weren't isolated slip-ups. They showed deeper flaws in training, policies, and attitudes, where non-physical coercive control gets treated as less serious than visible violence. It let Baxter's behavior escalate without real checks. The inquest confirmed agencies failed to link the warning signs, so they went unheeded. At its root, this tragedy was driven by coercive control, a pattern of domination to isolate, degrade, and own someone. Baxter treated Hannah like property, not a partner, entitled to control her life completely. It wasn't a one-off rage, it was years of intimate terrorism, where love became a tool for fear and power. Inquest experts said he wasn't mentally ill, no diagnoses or meds, but a master manipulator who hid his need to dominate behind charm, turning everyday life into power struggles. He chipped away at her freedom bit by bit, banning shorts or pink clothes, said they attracted attention, GPS on her car, cameras in the house for constant watching, hacking her phone to read messages and isolate her from friends, family. Nightly sex demands came with guilt trips or self-harm threats. He controlled the finances to keep her dependent, plus physical acts like non-lethal strangling or the January wrist twist that bruised her, building fear without always obvious marks. It was systematic, designed to erode her independence and reinforce his ownership. Hannah leaving in December 2019 shattered his control. Experts know separation is the most dangerous time. Abusers escalate to reclaim power. For Baxter, her independence felt like betrayal. The Boxing Day kidnapping of Liana, the January assault, the Bunnings buys 2 days before, all steps toward his final act of destruction when he couldn't possess her anymore. His control outweighed everything, even his kids, Aaliyah, Liana, and Trey, who became part of his revenge against her freedom. In his head, if he couldn't have the family his way, no one could. It wasn't impulsive, it was the deadly end of built-up domination. Understanding this isn't finger-pointing, it's about recognizing how hidden control kills more than punches, because it leaves no marks until too late. Since Baxter died at the scene, no criminal trial happened, no jury, no direct confrontation with Hannah's account. Instead, a coronial inquest took over. A Queensland coroner's court process to examine the death's circumstances, spot systemic failures, and recommend prevention steps. It wasn't about criminal guilt. It was about truth and change. It ran March 21 to 31, 2022, at Brisbane Magistrates Court, led calmly by Deputy State Coroner Jane Bentley. The atmosphere was heavy. Sue and Lloyd Clark attended every day, a quiet reminder of the real loss. Witnesses included paramedics who heard Hannah's final words in pain. "He poured petrol on me." Firefighters describing the rapid petrol blaze and the kids' trapped cries. DV experts outlining Baxter's 2939 lethality factors: stalking, isolation, abduction, strangulation, and how coercive control gets overlooked as a homicide predictor. Police who handled her reports faced tough questions. Training was mostly basic online modules, quizzes you could retake endlessly. Not enough for subtle risks. His clean record made him seem low risk despite the flags. On June 29, 2022, Bentley delivered clear findings. Police, child protection, and courts all missed Baxter's extreme lethality risk. Reports weren't shared across agencies. Coercive control was undervalued versus physical abuse. Recommendations included deeper hands-on police training, scenario-based, not quick online, more funding for early perpetrator behavior change programs, piloting multi-agency specialist stations, DV experts, mental health, social services together for better risk assessment. These aligned with the 2022 Women's Safety and Justice Task Force's 89 recommendations for systemic overhaul, like stronger lethality checks and victim focus. The inquest made Hannah's story a driver for reform, not perfect justice, but ensuring lessons lead to prevention so the next person gets heard and protected. In the aftermath of February 19, 2020, Sue and Lloyd Clark turned unimaginable grief into purpose. In March 2020, they founded Small Steps for Hannah, honoring her gentle determination and the small steps she took to freedom. It aims to halt domestic family violence through help, awareness, learning, transformation, focusing on spotting coercive control's invisible red flags. The foundation has grown. The HALT program educates young people on healthy relationships, control signs, and safety paths. In 2025, it reached thousands via schools, workshops, and sessions with experts, teachers, and survivors, shifting views beyond just physical abuse. Fundraising includes runs, partnerships, and events like the Toowoomba Supporters $100,000 in early 2026, plus the Hamilton Hotel's International Women's Day Luncheon on March 6, 2026. All funding awareness, victim support, and prevention. Key milestone. Hannah's Sanctuary, a Brisbane safe house, opened around 2023 after 2022 start, offering secure trauma-informed accommodation, counseling, legal aid, and independent steps for women and kids escaping abuse. They advocate nationally via seminars, media, and policy work to keep coercive control visible. The biggest legacy is Hannah's Law, Criminal Law, Coercive Control Amendment Act, 2024, criminalizing coercive control as a standalone offense from May 26, 2025, up to 14 years prison for patterns targeting intimate partners, family, or carers. In the first 6 months to late 2025, 149 reports led to over 50 charges, showing early accountability. Related reforms through January 2026 added affirmative consent, stricter bail for repeats, better agency info sharing, evidence protections, and police protection directions from task force and inquest ideas. By 2026, these changes are shifting Queensland's approach, earlier interventions seeing control as deadly. The foundation runs strong with programs, a national conference, April-May 2026 planned, and events. The loss endures, but Small Steps for Hannah turns Hannah's strength and her children's memory into real prevention and hope. Questions remain. Why dismiss reports as disputes? Could logging those texts have changed things? With so many lethality signs, how did the system miss him? In cases where control kills quietly, are we finally listening or still waiting for the next tragedy? Hannah's story keeps calling for action, reminding us prevention starts with hearing the warnings. If you found this story meaningful, join our community by subscribing and turning on notifications. Every subscriber helps us continue sharing stories that matter.